Los Angeles goddamn Lakers. Over the expectations of the Lakers over the current 2021-22 season, it come over to the extent of, okay, guys, think of a superhero comic book that came out that you were anticipating over the months of a big crossover with a storyline involving all of your favorite heroes for a majority of the comic book. And then when it all happened, you hear the progression goes on. You start questioning, and you question how the storyline's told or how the characters go over. Just a whole underwhelming comic book. That's technically how we produced the Los Angeles Lakers season, because they're coming over 8-7 in the bare minimum, struggling to beat teams below 500. Then they're getting shut out over 23-point deficits against the Chicago Bulls, and they can't even hold themselves against one of the worst teams that don't even have over 5 wins yet in 13 games against the Thunder, and then they could have lost even against the bum ass Spurs with a bunch of AAU kids and Lonnie Walker and DeJounte Murray. LeBron James looking like a fucking hood OG, wearing his dumb do-rag and getting himself hurt. 80 giving up glass cannon, with Westbrook being the clutch player on the team. They think, oh, this isn't the MVP season back in 2016. That obviously means that. No! And it's not like they don't have talented youth. I think Malik Monk is a promising athlete. You do have decent bench players like Avery Bradley. And, of course, you can move over the floor with Talen Horton-Tucker. He's a good athletic, slashing 6'4" guard that can move around the ball and he can shoot. And Sikkim Doumbouya is there for no reason. I don't know, bro. I have trust issues with NBA players with a run-on sentence for a last name. Same thing with Thanasis Antetokounmpo. You can't even put me in gunpoint to say that out loud. I'm serious, bro. All you have is a bunch of 40-year-old jobbers. This is just like 2013 to 04 Los Angeles Lakers team on the from years ago. Overpaid, overhyped, and just bare minimal to keep it consistent. And I would like to say that this would be a game changer and they would be a consistent competitor after claiming Avery Bradley, then getting over Wayne Ellington for no apparent reason, just for more veteran depth, even though your entire starting five is over 31 years old except Anthony Davis and Malik Monk. How is that possible? How do you expect... I understand they're a prestigious franchise and they do need names, but right now they could finish fourth in their division. They have at least the weakest pace in the NBA. They are weak defensively. And Frank Vogel can't coach his team into shit after going 52 wins and then going 42. And now he's starting over 8-7 with AD being the best player they got right now. With their highest win share being 2. That is depressing. I'd rather have Luke Walton and Byron Scott back than this. I didn't even know we even had Mike D'Antoni for like one season. And that was over the losing era of the Lakers, the post-prime of Kobe Bryant. And now I'm feeling this would be the last time the Lakers would even make it over the playoffs, and that was 2012 and 2013. They came off 35 and 37 and losing in the first round. That's bad. LeBron has only played about 6 games and he's been hurt for a majority of the game. But if we're looking at Westbrook, he's shooting 42% from the field, dude. He's coming up, just dribbling over the ball like a transgender person, coming around and flicking his wrist and trying to force over a 2. his 2-point percentage should at least be up a 51. The guy's putting up the worst shooting percentage in his starting five. Even worse than Melo, that's in the best shooting splits of his career in the past 5 seasons. Let's just put it this way. Without Melo, they wouldn't be in even close performances. Even in weaker performances, Melo has performed them whenever it came to clutch shots, moving out the ball, at least slowing the tempo to at least get some semblance of control whenever they move out the ball, and just consistently scoring. If you're seeing how their former players like Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso out-hustled them, outplayed them, outshined them, and outscored them in their last game, y'all should be perplexed, kerfuffled, bamboozled at the way that they play, bro. Because if we're looking at their shooting, they're absolutely shit. They're shit. LeBron shooting has decreased. Westbrook shooting has been at least the weakest performing. And just knowing, like, they're sub 500 sitting over a bottom 7, fuck it. Lakers might be in the play-in tournament. How even the media is still thinking that they're consistent offensive shine when you guys are bringing up that they beat teams like the Timberwolves and Spurs, and even struggle over the Miami Heat without Jimmy Butler. They are a shit team. And if we're looking at their last game alone, that was November 15th, just a few nights ago. And just tonight, because this is getting uploaded like very early in the morning before 7:30, where they have the Milwaukee Bucks that are not making as much noise. They got shut out 103-21. They have been playing like piss. When you start out 2-2, like only winning 2 of your first 5 fucking games, having your biggest winning streak be 3, Lakers, you guys are barely going to survive for December or January when people start caring about the NBA, because this is just awful. Because look at the wins you guys had. Jimmy Butler been injured since before November 10th. You guys beat the young Hornets. And by the way, don't you know their best performances had to be in OT? Yeah, they beat the Rockets and the Cavs. Whoop-de-doo, Spurs and Grizzlies. When they beat teams like the Suns and Warriors, they lose to double digits. Even to OKC. Twice. They're garbage, bro. Bulls are coming out 10-4. I thought they were going to be a promising team, and now they're the hottest team in the NBA. If you're coming alone, DeRozan dropped over 38. Lonzo dropped over 27 against his former team. We know he was a Pelican for 2 seasons, but goddamn. And Alex Caruso didn't do much over the points perspective, but overall was a great performer defensively. And just knowing, like, this is what you guys do, y'all garbage. Y'all a joke in the NBA. Melo dropped over 28 for nothing. Shooting below 500. And he went 4 of 8. He only made 4 shots out of 9. And he went 9 of 19. Nobody even made a sub 50 off their regular field goal. Even their 2-point splits are terrible. Avery Bradley shouldn't even be on the Lakers. I didn't even know the appointment of a bench player having a starting position, because their lineup of rotations are goddamn awful. They gave even more minutes to Malik Monk off the bench, marking over 27, and Wayne Ellington having more minutes than Rondo. That's a better floor general. I don't get that. And they just put over Austin Reeves for no reason, even though he wasn't even dressed. What's the point? And they're possibly making more signings like this. And it's such a desperation ploy. The media is just thinking about, why don't you just sign a better player from a contending team? Because it's not going to work. DeRozan's also a veteran player. He's just on a more useful team with a smarter offense. You have Lonzo Ball that's like below 25, and he already has a great basketball IQ for somebody his age since coming out of UCLA, and of course a great playmaker and shot creator like Zach LaVine that can also slam on the floor. You got better bigs than when they had Wendell Carter. Just a better overall team than the Lakers. And it's tough to say this. It's just really tough to like hear, like, this is the type of bullshit people would just be overhyping for the sake of just forcing over optimism when there's not that much really to talk over in the NBA unless it's involving LeBron James, or even with the teams that are making so much noise. The Bulls haven't really been big since the late 90s, and of course the other teams that are popping off or at least garnering some tractions are smaller market teams like Charlotte or Milwaukee and Phoenix. So there's not really to press over to that matter unless you're a real hardcore basketball fans. And even though there's teams still over in the conversation like Brooklyn or New York or Golden State, they're still far and in between and not as big with the star power they have currently over their roster. Because we know that LA recently lost, but they are not as big as when they were a few seasons ago when watching their games was must-see TV. And, of course, the Knicks are going to be a perceivable team that have been garnering some positive reception and been a really good improvement for the past 3 seasons. I've spoken about this before, that they're in the right direction in previous videos, even discussing how they perform in the offseason. But they're not going to be a contender. And I have the best hopes for Charlotte and Chicago. But just knowing that this is the most talked about team right now, they're absolute dog water. I just don't want to hear anything about the goddamn Lakers at this point. They're not going to be good enough to face off against overall better teams, and they're just not working hard enough to at least face off against teams that they should obviously beat. Because beating the Spurs and the fucking Hornets ain't shit. And of course, as soon as the front office knows that they have to nuke over their team, possibly come January or December, when stuff doesn't work before the deadline. Because if you think starting a sub 500 record, and you think LeBron comes back and he fixes over that offense, you're in already an awful mindset as not only like a businessman. You're obviously not thinking what would be good for the team in general, especially over the offense, or at least looking statistic-wise, because numbers don't lie, even though you don't want to overuse them. But in basketball, it does matter, because you're working with a more smaller roster than something like baseball or football or hockey. And basketball is a young man's sport. You don't win with a lot of veterans. You win with a balance. And it's worked like that for years. So, that's technically all I got to say about that. Do I think like the Lakers will bounce back and become back and like at least force themselves over to the play-in tournament? It's possible. But am I feeling like they could fail and just ridge around mediocrity for majority of the season, depending on their off-season trades? Possibly. Yeah, hell, they might even hit over for DeMarcus Cousins or something. I would care less at this point. Other than that, how you guys feel about the Lakers' chances proceeding in the NBA season? I understand it's mad early, it's only in November, but Like, this is not a good thing to start. That's 15 straight games already passed by. It's been over a month and a half. So, Lakers got to fix up what they got right now. And the more you play the same way like this, the more like this could happen in the season. Probably worser teams like the Pelicans and Rockets will expose you even though you already have more than one meeting with them. Or even worse teams from the Eastern Conference in that matter. And just knowing how you guys will be playing against harder competition like the Bucks or the Celtics or the Warriors or the Jazz or the Miami Heat or the Knicks or the Nets. Even with the Nets' problems in depth and shooting, they're still a top seed contender for the playoffs. So that's something to just keep in the back of every ignorant Lakers fan or just a LeBron fan. I mean, yeah, I'm a fan of D Wade, but I always, gotta be realistic when it comes to whether all because the player's great doesn't mean it's really going to help the performance of the team. So, just keep that in mind. Thanks for watching. That's it for me.